A lot of dog owners say the same thing. My dog was fine yesterday. This behavior came out of nowhere. He suddenly became reactive. She was never like this before. And most of the time, owners truly feel like it happened all at once. But in many cases, it didn't happen all at once. What changed was not always the dog. What changed was that the stress finally became visible. In other words, your dog may not have changed suddenly. What you may be seeing is the result of stress, pressure, and nervous system overload. Overload that has been building up for hours, or even days. And that's where an important concept comes in. Trigger stacking. Trigger stacking means that multiple stressful or arousing events build on top of each other until your dog reaches a point where they can no longer cope. And this is one of the most common reasons owners say, "I don't understand why my dog reacted so strongly to something so small." Because in many cases, your dog is not reacting only to that one small moment. They're reacting to everything that came before it. Let's make this simple. Not every dog has one big dramatic trigger. Sometimes it's not one major event. Sometimes it's a series of smaller things that keep adding up. The doorbell rings. Then your dog is left alone. Then there's a stressful walk. Then another dog passes too close. Then there's car stress. Then guests come over. Then loud sounds happen outside. Then sleep is disrupted. Each of those things may seem manageable on its own. And maybe, on a calm day, your dog could handle them. But when they happen close together, without enough recovery in between, the nervous system starts carrying that load forward. And eventually, something small becomes the final straw. That's why a dog may suddenly bark at something they normally ignore, or react to a touch they usually tolerate, or become irritable with another dog, or seem unusually restless in a familiar environment. And from the owner's point of view, it can feel confusing, because the final trigger looks too small to explain the reaction. But the reaction is often not about the final trigger alone. It's about the total load. A simple way to think about it is like a cup filling with water. Every stressful event adds a little more. Sometimes just a few drops. Sometimes much more. But if the cup never gets a chance to empty, eventually even one more drop causes it to overflow. And when that happens, the last drop gets blamed. But the last drop is usually not the whole story. That's trigger stacking. And it doesn't always show up as obvious aggression. That's important. Sometimes people only think about aggression or reactivity, but stress buildup can show up in many different ways. Restlessness, pacing, whining, more startle responses, less patience, more clinginess, more lip licking, more yawning, difficulty settling, poor sleep, reduced appetite, mild digestive upset, hypervigilance. So sometimes the dog is not being bad. Sometimes the dog is simply overloaded. Now let's talk about the 72-hour rule. First, this is important. This is not a strict medical law for every dog. It does not mean every dog resets perfectly in exactly 72 hours. And in behavior work, many professionals use a very useful idea. After a significant stress event, the nervous system may need time to come back down. And in many dogs, that recovery window can take 24 to 72 hours, sometimes longer, depending on the dog and what they experienced. That means your dog may look like the event is over, but physiologically and emotionally, they may still be carrying the effects. And this is where owners often make things worse without realizing it. A dog has a stressful vet visit. Then the next day, there's another outing. Then training pressure. Then guests. Then a noisy walk. Then more social exposure. And because the dog never really got a recovery window, the stress keeps stacking. Then owners say, "Why is my dog getting worse?" But sometimes the problem isn't one event. Sometimes the problem is that the dog never got a chance to come back down before the next stressor arrived. This is especially common after vet visits, grooming appointments, long car rides, noisy days, guests in the home, big social weekends, moving to a new place, surgery or medical procedures, repeated training pressure, poor sleep. And here's something very important. Not all stressed dogs look dramatic. Some dogs don't look obviously stressed at all. Owners often say, "But my dog seemed normal." And that can be true on the surface. Because stress doesn't always look explosive. Sometimes it looks subtle, sleeping less deeply, scanning the environment more often, reacting faster than usual, startling more easily, changing positions more often, yawning more, lip-licking more, needing more control, struggling to fully settle. So in many cases, your dog was giving signals before the big reaction ever happened. They just weren't obvious enough for most people to notice. So what should you do? First, stop assuming your dog randomly changed. Instead, look back at the last 48 to 72 hours. Ask yourself, what happened recently? Was there alone time stress? Noise stress? Travel stress? A vet visit? A bath or grooming appointment? Poor sleep? Too much stimulation? Too much training pressure? Too many demands without enough recovery? Second, don't try to fix everything immediately. This is one of the biggest mistakes owners make. When a dog starts struggling, people often respond by doing more exposure, more training, more correction, more pressure. But sometimes what the dog needs first is not more work. Sometimes what the dog needs is less load. A calmer day, fewer triggers, more predictability, more decompression, more rest, less pressure to perform. Sometimes the most supportive thing you can do is not to push through. It's to give the nervous system room to settle. And third, try to separate the visible behavior from the emotional load underneath it. Because barking is a behavior. Reactivity is a behavior. Restlessness is a behavior. But the reason behind it may be fear, overwhelm, arousal buildup, poor recovery, or stacked stress. And if you only focus on stopping the visible behavior, without understanding the load underneath, you may miss the real problem. So if there's one thing I want you to remember from this video, it's this. Your dog may not be changing out of nowhere. You may just be seeing the moment when accumulated stress finally becomes visible. And sometimes the answer is not to be stricter. Sometimes the answer is to understand what has been building. If you want more veterinary-informed videos about dog stress, follow the channel.